Hey everybody, Aaron Cowan, Sage Dynamics. This week's questions answered video, getting off the X. This question's come to me in a number of ways, and the question wasn't specifically about getting off the X and anything specifically in regards to that, but it was about the idea of preparatory movement and the idea that on a draw stroke we should take a step to the left or the right to prep movement to cover concealment, which kind of presupposes that cover concealment is available or that movement makes sense in that situation. So one of the terms that's commonly thrown out there, and you see this a lot in discussions about, lessons learned or what you can do differently, and people keep saying, get off the X, get off the X, get off the X, get off the X. What I think a lot of these people don't understand is that getting off the X is a very specific term that applies to a very specific type of situation, and it doesn't really apply outside of that situation. And their heart's in the right place. They're trying to get people to start thinking about movement. And movement is important. It's something that we should practice. It's something we should be proficient at. But being the pedant that I am, I want to make sure that when we use a term, we're using it correctly, because words do mean things. So I figured the best way to do this would be kind of go through and explore the concept and explore what some people might think when they're talking about getting off the X and what they think maybe getting off the X might do for them. I figured the best way to do this would be to go into some 8-bit graphics and give you a visual representation of the concepts and principles. Of course, first thing we need to explore is the fact that the X is a physical place in time, usually referring to some kind of choke point or place where an ambush can be set up. This is where the terminology comes from, escaping an ambush, such as this situation. That was a pretty low budget representation of a convoy ambush. A convoy comes into a choke point, such as an intersection. They have to stop for whatever reason. They're attacked, and then they get off the X. They get off the noun. They get out of the area. They are fleeing from an enemy who can't otherwise pursue them. And this is the correct usage of the term. When you can escape from an area, escape from an ambush, escape from a situation where your enemy can't necessarily pursue you, your threat can't necessarily pursue you, or it puts you in a much more improved position. That's proper usage of get off the X. That's where the term comes from. And this is an example of the improper use of the terminology. The assumption is made that in a self-defense situation, if you just go ahead and get off the X, so to speak, then you're going to be successful and you're going to stop the threat. That's not the case. In reality, you are the X, so your threat is going to track you wherever you happen to move to. So it'd be more like this. Ideally, what you want to do if you're going to prep movement is you want to improve your position as much as possible based on the environment that you're in. So while you are the X, you can easily put yourself in a position of cover. Now, of course, that's presupposing that cover is available. But throwing out the term get off the X, it's almost like some people are trying to make it seem like they're more knowledgeable on the subject than they really are by using this cute tropish catchphrase, this cliche, this terminology that maybe they've heard it from someone that was more knowledgeable than them, or it's been passed along so many times that it's lost its context and it's lost its substance. So we end up with these cheap one-liners, these throwaway drive-by comments that people use trying to give somebody advice. Yes, you should move if moving makes sense. However, saying, oh, well, just get off the X, you got to get off the X. You are the X. Outside of an ambush type situation where you have the ability to flee at a rate faster than your enemy can travel, your threat is going to track you. So there is no X because you are the X. Become one with the X, become one with the concept that the bad guy is simply just going to pursue you if you decide to move. There's no magic to it, there's no mysticism, nothing like that. So I hope this has been helpful to kind of expand upon the concept. I am not against the idea of movement. I'm not against the idea of preparatory movement, but I don't default to mechanical movements such as drawing, moving as you draw, just default. It's something I was taught originally, something I used to practice a long time ago. But once I started getting more experience in real life, as well as a lot of different force on force evolutions, I realized that the default mechanical sidestep 6, 8, 12 inches as I draw isn't necessarily going to provide me with any real advantage, and it may actually slow down my draw stroke in general based on situation, environment, and a lot of other atmospheric or psychophysiological aspects of the encounter. So it's not something I'm going to do as a default, but I always have movement in mind because I'm always trying to improve my position. Coming back to the topic of the video, get off the X. Use the terminology properly, guys. And that's just me asking everyone to try to be a little bit more intelligent about the conversations that we're trying to have and the advice that we're trying to give. If you see someone say get off the X and it doesn't apply to the situation, see if you can help them out and explain to them that just that little throwaway one-line drive-by comment isn't actually helping anyone. And what it's doing is it's giving people a false sense of concept, a false sense of principle, a false sense of tactics, if you will, when it comes to self-defense shooting. I'm Aaron Cowan with Sage Dynamics. Train accordingly.